Warm greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Women Who Write. Today I'm here with Gila and Selma, who are both teachers and facilitators for the Radiant Sutras, and we decided to come on today. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. So glad to be here with you both.
Thank you so much on this Christmas day. We happen to be together.
Well, and the first
Yeah.
first night of Hanukkah.
Yes,
Oh,
that
nice.
as well. Oh, I love that we started there because that's for me, speaking of the spiritual more often now, like more of an expression and really getting that for for Hanukkah and Christmas Day to fall together is like for me representing the unity that's occurring with humanity. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, yes, very beautiful. The solstice was a few days ago, and as we're moving more into the light, and both holidays fall on the same day, I feel the surge of light that we experienced both on that night of our poetry class, as
Mhm.
well as continuing on to the holiday.
That was so amazing and healing, wasn't it? Like the breakthroughs that some of the poets are having, or maybe all of them, was so deeply moving. And how I loved how we brought forward like the dark to the light. We really dove into the theme of the shadow, and it was really powerful.
It was. It was. I think that it also, I know it affected me personally of really kind of delving deep, as teachers, as creators, as poets, we have to like walk the talk and I think that and that also makes a huge impact both for ourselves and the people that we're working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like each class we do, I feel that not only do the students get activated, but I said before, like I feel like they're so activating for us too. And I feel like it's such a transformative process that we've been going on together. It's just been beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel it building since the beginning that we were just willing to come in there together and discover each other as well while we were there
Hmm.
and building our relationship while we're each contributing our gifts and really just being with that and being with who shows up. And out of that, here we are, like maybe halfway through the course, and transformation is happening now in a completely uh, unexpected, undesigned. It wasn't like we said, "Oh, this is what we're doing with it." Yeah, it's just a beautiful outcome at this point, and I'm looking forward to it continuing to build. That's just and allowing it to build in the way that it does.
Mm.
It's really fun.
I think that's kind of the gift of creating a sacred space that is continuous. So it doesn't just stop and start. The container holds the transformational, whatever occurs in that transformational space, because there is the room for that and the opening for those breakthroughs and, kind of like aha moments. And I believe we all need kind of these containers to incubate in and marinate in and like really go deep. And I feel that it's really beautiful that the three of us, are synergy, and then we get to kind of play off of each other, but also bring something like really unique to the table. And then the poets share such beautiful poetry in the moment. It's just it's astounding like what they bring forward in an hour and a half class. And what was revealed in the last class, Selma, that you were saying earlier?
Yeah, First of all, I just want to say often I go by Solma. And also, when we were talking, out of the way, as far as what we created to begin with, was just the space that you're calling, the container,
Hmm.
and the allowing to go deeply, and that's where shadow is the beginning of transformation, whether we, you know, think of it that way or not. It's going into those places deeply. So, leading the meditation to allow us to go deep into ourselves and our souls and our hearts. And from there, the expression comes. And this one woman who shared was just sharing from a completely different place than her other poems.
Hmm.
And it moved her to where afterwards she began speaking about how it was an awakening for her. And it actually was an awakening for me whenever she was um, reading it, because we could hear the difference from her former poems to this one, to being able to go into that sensual place of women. That's what we've been delicate with, and honoring and appreciating, and allowing them to be where they were with it, because it's an invitation of exploring it. And then when they've had the time to be in the depth, it's like what came out of it just, I call it the space of God, because it's unexpected. You're in the flow, and when you're in the flow, sometimes you don't even know it. But then, boom, a result comes up that you could not have imagined before. And
Hmm.
that to me is God's presence, the presence of the divine. And I also want to talk about it right this minute, like Mother Divine Essence is what I was giving when I was 8. And I see it showing up now differently, because today has also been known as a Christ consciousness. And I thought, wow, well, Mother Divine Essence is Christ consciousness in the feminine aspect.
Hmm.
So, what I see the value of this course, the Sensual Poet course that we're in and will be giving again, is that it has you have the access to beyond where you start in your sensuality. Your sensuality becomes the opening to the deeper shadow that is dealt with in a gentle way.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm really grateful for both of you because it just to be with others who can hold space and then allow for what is so important. It's just everybody needs that. You know, everybody needs that. And then miracles are happening and it's like so beautiful. And there, I really love Carl Jung, and he says the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And, that's kind of like what we're
Oh,
playing with, is just like playing with what comes forward. Like there's no right or wrong. It's like what's coming forward from the voice of your soul. And as we're kind of like in the dark, the darkness of winter, and of course we're moving into the light today is like, wow, the light's coming back, the light came back a few days ago, but it's really activated today with that Christ consciousness. And it's kind of like been illuminating the shadows, because the light illuminates the shadow parts of ourself too, the parts that we are very reluctant to face. And so I believe like that this period where we kind of went into the shadows and we got to look at them and kind of integrate those shadows. It's such an important part of spiritual growth as a poet too, because if we're afraid to face our shadows or put the light on them, then we are restricted in the depths of our poetry. So I felt that there we, the last session we had was really like an opening of acceptance of the shadow aspect and integration, and also tying it in with like the poetry, and it just was so beautiful. Like everything that came through was like delicious and gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
just happened to land on that auspicious day filled with light. And it seems like when we went into the darkness, it was actually gentle
Mm,
and
yeah.
moving,
Mhm.
gentle movement. Yes, Gila, what else?
yeah, yeah. No, no, that's totally fine. I just wanted to share that I think that the darkness also allows us to step into the deeper power, the whole
Yes.
sensuality, opening up, that creativity, like churning. And, you know, I just reminds me of the moon. The moon has all its phases. And as we've been moving through this course, we've been like moving through those phases, and it wanes and it gets fuller. Um, and as you were saying, this transformation that's happening is also happening to us individually and as a group, as a collaborative group. And it's just been like you said earlier, like it's been unexpected. It's been like a gift
Mm,
that has totally, we've been allowed to receive it. Sometimes we take in gifts, but we are not fully open to them. And I feel like this
mm,
gift has been fully received.
mm. Beautifully stated. Yeah. I'm just it's really really been a joy to kind of it's been experiential, like we had our outline, we had our preparations, but then when you come in to the space, there's so much room to explore and to feel, and it's like, in this day and age, it's hard to kind of come across those safe spaces. So I know that when we do this again, it's just like we're gonna go even bigger to share this gift with others, because I really see the beauty and the value in this as just a part of our it's both kind of a inner transformational journey, but it's also a poetic journey, and it goes hand in hand, and it just helps us every step of the way.
Yeah. I'm also
Yeah.
hearing owning our power as the feminine. It's
Hmm.
like it's become a tool to develop that capacity to express that part of ourselves that we didn't know was missing. We're just like
Hmm.
kind of over there discovering it. And yeah, discovering the opening or creating the opening, the little crack that becomes a door, window, even. I love the window aspect with the light coming in.
Yeah, I feel like it's a discovery, and I think that writing enables that, poetry enables that, because there aren't too many rules, and I personally find it to be also very healing. It's like this release, and and through that release you find openings, and it's like a whole process that we've been able to, as we focus on each theme, or just as it comes to us, intuitively, we've been moving through this, and it's been more than a joy. It's really been like a revelation.
Yeah, you make me want to go ahead and own my power around this, because as you were speaking about that power of it, Radha, I realized when I brought up the Mother Divine Essence, um, that's speaking about it. But here I am wanting to just own that I've been giving visions lately
Hmm.
of of the other divine essence within. And I'm clear now that it's, yes, I'm seeing this inside myself. I had an experience receiving it, and it's for everyone. Everyone has this capability. And so when I feel the Mother Divine Essence running through me enough to permeate outward from my body. It is like that auric field that we see represented in the Virgen de Guadalupe.
Yeah.
And her day was December 12th. So it's mixed in this beautiful
Hmm.
ceremony that we're in. And I love it that, you know, this is the season that we ended up having this sensual poet. And I can now speak about it in a way I never have. So thank you for that. And Gila, I'm going to put you on the spot, I think. And of course, you don't have to share, but if you're willing to even share about your breakthrough as well, it's just, you know, about what you were sharing right beforehand, that you saw something new for yourself and it was powerful.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for asking. I feel like, I don't know, for the last few years, it's been like a little bit, I've been treading water, but I feel like now I'm actually like, can swim laps. Like I could see the horizon, whereas before it wasn't so clear. And I think just really releasing things that don't serve me and stand in my own power,
Mm.
um, in its fullest sense of the word, and realizing that, all my desires are actually in front of me, and some of the things that I was carrying as baggage just needed to be let go, and I didn't know how to do it, but I was able to, during this time, and I'm feeling really, really light. So I want to thank each of you, for collaborating with me on this beautiful course, and all of our students, who have joined us, because I don't think it would have happened, if it wasn't for the energy that occurred throughout the course.
And my experience of you sharing is your realization of it came out of a poem that you read. And you
Hmm.
all, it was the kind of poem that was expressing so much in a new way for you that you really didn't necessarily feel like reading in front of us. And of course, it's a safe space, and you did. And then we actually were caught by a certain part of it, and you were seeing where you withheld something about your interaction with this person. And since then, so that's just been since Saturday. This is Wednesday, and today is when we get to hear about you actually being in a space of freedom.
Hmm. Yeah, like
Yeah,
liberation.
there you go,
Liberation.
that word. Yes, even better. Yeah, and the giggle would go with it.
I
Yeah.
want to say there's also phases to that. I felt liberated before, many times, but I think that there are, just like our lives are like continuous spirals. I think there's you know, like higher consciousness is like a continual process, right? It doesn't end. Like liberation also doesn't end. It's an
Hmm.
ongoing journey.
It's infinite. Oh, and then you also spoke about magic, which is my favorite realm, um, along with spirituality. I think it's all magical. And also, the number 8 is for magic. And that's been number 2024. This year has been a number 8 year. So
Mm.
the ending in the magic, and when you lay the 8 on its side, it's infinity. It's the symbol
Mhm.
for infinity. It is non ending, it is limitless. And it's our infinite, limitless power that we are getting a hint of at this part. And yes, we're also open and willing to continue to let it unfold. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's 8 days of Hanukkah, so
There you go.
so that's really, or 8 nights, I should say. But yeah, so that's really
Yeah. Yeah, I love all the correlations around 8 for sure.
good. Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, magic was a part of my life long before I knew what that was. And it's also for healing. Yeah, it also represents healing. And so here we are in all of that. Healing is transformational. Wow.
Mhm.
It's all related, and it's wonderful to have so many references to how we can speak of magic and miracles and healing and spirituality and all of that for making it normal. How about even that it becomes cliche? Why not? Yeah.
I feel like reading a poem.
Yay.
Okay. Should I read Wave of Darkness or The Ache or Hips Without Permission? Well, that one is, I don't know if it's appropriate for today, but
I do. That's my favorite.
okay. Okay, I'll read that one. So, for so many years, my hips were not acceptable. Too round, too soft, too womanly for the world that told me the waif was the only beauty. The slender, sharp lines that drew the eye like a perfect blade. They called it graceful. They called it pure, but it was never me. The patriarchy throws around fat like a weapon meant to blast you open, make your guts fall out, leave you exposed and empty, like you're less than human, less than worthy, less than beautiful, because you don't fit their mold. It's a language of shame, a term they use to strip you bare, tear you apart, as if your body's worth is something to be measured by inches and the lines they deemed acceptable. I tried to erase what I could not deny, tucked away in baggy clothes, starving myself to fit their mold, as if shrinking my body would make me worthy of love. But my hips, those stubborn curves, grew without permission, defied the rules, spilled out with the fullness of who I was and who I was becoming. I couldn't tame them, no matter how hard I tried. They were too strong, too alive, too unapologetic for a world that demanded silence in the form of a body that could disappear into the background. But now I see them, these hips that once felt like a rebellion, as the truest part of me. They grew, despite the world's orders, carrying the weight of my womanhood, my power, my depth. They are the marker of everything I've lived through, the stories etched into my skin, the places I've walked, the battles I fought, and I am no longer shrinking from them. I stand tall, my hips wide and unyielding, knowing now that they were never wrong, never something to hide or hate. They are a gift, a reminder that I don't need permission to be who I am. I was always meant to take up space, to exist fully, without apology. The waif may have been the world's vision, but my hips, my body are my own, and I choose to embrace them without shame, without fear, without the need for approval. I am a woman, and I am free.
Wow.
Woo!
I know. It's so
Love that.
powerful. Ah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
really, really
sisters.
great.
Thank you. And I want to say like, you know, thank you for the space because like it takes, like it took a safe container to kind of tap into those kind of shadowy parts that kind of, we don't always bring those shadows forward. We forget sometimes even like the thoughts that we've had when we were a teen or growing up. And then I feel that the space that we created was
Mhm.
so loving and so nurturing that it was safe for these parts to come forward and to express themselves and to examine. And, that's not something you get to do in everyday life because life is so demanding and so busy, and there's always something else to do. And in this kind of sacred cauldron and container, I just felt so much permission. And and I'm really glad that,
Mm.
all the poets that joined felt that way too. It's just so loving and so beautiful. And it's something that's available and possible for people to experience, and whether they create their own, sacred space or join us, it doesn't really matter. It's available.
Yes. Yeah. It was, when you were speaking just now, I even got gentle power. There was a gentle power around it, and you made yourself through that shadow and came out, in the power of it. So even that poem expresses it. And I think this one does too. I didn't think I was going to read this one either, but it also is like, uh, uh, it's it's not only safe, it becomes, I guess, safe enough to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the first time reading it is like, can be, like so moving and triggering, and yet reading it again in a safe space, some of that has healed, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say. Yeah. And so the next reading is powerful in a different way. And I also want to acknowledge your prompts. I know that I set up the space for us to go into the depth, and then your prompts are so articulate in taking us further into like where to go. I'm like leaving the space open to go in the deep, but then you're like setting it up to go, here's where you go. How about this prompt? And it was deeper than I knew. So internal truths hidden away. Excavate the angst and rage that surfaces at the slightest featherlight trigger, meant to be explored, felt, expressed, all sorts of accepting sensitivities we wished away, 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 and ignored. Please be gentle in bringing me to awaken. The harshness brought me to my knees in pain that I couldn't let go of for many, many years that felt like eons. And yet that too eventually dispersed, whether I was willing or not. It is my path of sensitivity growing to its layered oneness. Because in that gentle way, it opens me now to embrace my light.
Mm. Mm.
Same journey as far as going deeper in the dark than we knew and coming out
Mm-hmm.
to
Oh.
the light. Yeah. And then, not that you need to read it, Gila, but absolutely welcome to if you want. But that was represented in yours too. It's like
Yeah.
the full journey of we went into the dark, and before we knew it, we came
Mhm.
out. It's like, what? This is awesome. Yeah.
The hero's journey or the heroine's journey. I think we can't go through that initiate it's kind of like an initiation journey unless we're willing to face the dark, or the shadows or those hidden parts that have been hiding. And I think that's such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful thing to kind of bring it out. Come on, and then that was so beautiful in your poem. Like, oof, it was really powerful and very tender. The ending is like, oh, I just sighed because it just felt like, and I think that's something that poetry can do. It's like you hold your breath a little and then you just it's a relief. It feels so good, you know.
Yes, and it became more out of that kind of a prompt from you because it continued. Your prompt was about the hidden. Where are the hidden or denied parts of ourselves and how it looks? Is it full of light? Is it expressed? So mine continued into denied more parts painful than imaginable, deeply kept in protective slumber. I dare not feel it to release. Too much to feel anything at all. Numbness welcomed along with distractions that trained me to love distractions, find more distractions. I didn't know I denied a level of love along with all of the rest to feel. Laughter was a blessing, including giddiness, silliness, and wet your pants giggles. Loved those extremes that made me feel the love present that I could not be allowed to penetrate because penetration meant danger.
Mm,
Only seeking spirit that was my source for love and a place that I'm protected eternally. I'm God's source creation for all the expressions and playfulness. And that was the redemption and still is of any forgiveness of all situations in my reflections over time. Forgiveness self forgives everyone fully.
mm, mm,
I love that. Forgiveness is very, hits me deep in my soul.
hmm.
Yeah, I don't think we grow without it.
Yeah. The last two lines, could you just read that again?
Um, um, I hope this is part of it.
Like forgiveness of self.
Okay, right there. All right. The redemption of any forgiveness of all situations and my life's reflections over time. Forgiveness of self forgives everyone fully.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, baby, that is powerful. I was like, wow, wow, wow. Because on so many levels, like our anger at others is so many times really about our anger at ourselves because we allowed that person, you know, like somehow, like or we maybe we didn't, but there's something about we're angry at ourselves because of that relationship or that experience or whatever it is. And so I just go, wow, because that's really the root, you know, the root
Yes.
of it all. And so I have been thinking about that a lot lately. And it's interesting, the holiday seasons can bring up the shadow of relationships because, you know, resentments and things like that, the hurts.
Mhm.
And
And
so I've been,
sadness
yeah,
of that
sadness, the grief.
situation.
And so I've been thinking about forgiveness a lot lately and really pondering how the root of it is forgiving the self because almost like that's just like if it really that's really where it's at because once you really 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 do that everything else just kind of melts away and it's a melting of like okay well I'm good with myself. You know, I forgive myself. I made mistakes and opening my heart in this way, whatever the scenario could be. But really, I learned, I grew, I forgave myself. And now everything else, it's like really it's about the relationship with ourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and how that shifts everything around us. And it's such a powerful thing. It just I don't know, that line, those two lines really are like mind blowing when you really, really consider what it means, especially in the season and before we start the new year. Like I was thinking about like kind of creating like, journaling and writing down who I feel I need to forgive and then but then also taking responsibility somehow for that
Mhm.
relationship because how did that happen, and so in doing so it's like I'm freeing myself.
Yes.
We free ourselves, we liberate ourselves because otherwise it's like we're tethered to people through resentment, through anger. And although it's okay because that's also part of the healing process and very necessary because otherwise it'd be bypassing if we didn't feel the fullness of our emotions, but in really coming back to the root. And I think that's the hardest part because you're like, wait a minute, forgive myself. What?
Hmm.
Like they
Yeah.
did this and they did that. Okay, but forgiving self is like that's where the power's at.
Absolutely. That is key because it's actually, you said it differently, but I saw a new way to say this is that that's is full responsibility for this is my life. I'm the one in this situation. This happened with this other person to reflect that to me.
Hmm.
And it's, whatever it is in their life, the part that is mine in my life to be forgiven. And um, it has nothing to do with blame.
Hmm.
Blame is one of those distractions.
Hmm.
Blame is one of those, I don't need to look any further than that. That's on them. There's no ownership or responsibility in blame. And so being fully responsible for forgiving ourselves. So, like, oh, when I blame somebody or when they showed me that and this is what they did, and it feels horrible inside this vessel of mine that I'm sensitive to, and I'm not allowing that to be there. Whatever is in that space and I forgive is freedom.
Hmm.
That is love. It's all those high frequencies that healing brings. And it is why I love energy medicine of any kind. It's all the same expression. That is the expression of our oneness that shows up in illimitable ways. And it is immersion into any way that we access energy medicine for ourselves brings that forgiveness in such a way that, I mean, yeah, we totally wrote about it and accessed something new. Um, and that wasn't available until we delved into that energetic part of ourselves
Hmm.
that was willing.
Yeah, yeah. That's really something I've been pondering and really sitting in. And I also just want to share that like as an artist, as a poet, like you don't just come to forgiveness. Like it's part of the journey to feel all the emotions because if we kind of bypass a certain part then it's there as a suppressed emotion and it kind of hides in the body or hides in the shadows until another trigger comes and then pops out. So it's kind of beautiful actually to this journey because we get to explore the whole because we're whole people, we're whole beings, right? The whole and then as we go deeper into the shadow, it like brings us back to ourself. And so that was like the last session we did and I just thought, wow, it's so powerful because we get to really explore and I think that permission to also before the the shadow is like we can feel angry and hurt and all of those emotions that really want a
Yeah.
voice and expression, and the poetry gives it that. It's
Hmm.
so vital because if we kind of just bypass it and be like, oh, I'm so enlightened, I'm already above it all. Well, I mean, that's great, but
It's not a very
what
enlightened statement,
yeah.
but yes, it's a
Well,
good example.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of like,
I
light
know.
workers don't want to touch the darkness because they're afraid. They want to just be seen as like just this one thing, but part of it is like it's like the messiness and the courage and the beauty and like the beauty to walk through it all and like not stop walking, because even
Mhm.
if the anger, even if the tears, even if all of it comes up, you keep moving forward until you go and you get to face yourself in that mirror, in those shadows. And my goodness, when you walk through there, it's like, oh, it you wouldn't believe what an elixir it is, but that you have to build up that courage. It doesn't just come like, oh, I'm just going to step in the shadow of myself or explore. Like, it's a buildable process. And so
Mhm.
I'm really like so grateful that we've gone this far, and it's exciting to see what's next, and that it's been building. And I love
Mhm.
all the parts, including the anger and the sacred rage and, and the grief. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
nobody talks about grief. Nobody, everybody's like, I'm strong, I'm perfect, everything's fine, love and light. And it's like, yeah, okay, but also part of being human is the grief, and is that like grief? It's we all have that grief just simply from the separation of that, or the perception of the separation of being
Mhm.
disconnected from that sweet divine, that elixir of our soul. And so we long to reconnect back to our soul. And
Mhm.
somebody recently told me they went on a plant medicine journey, and they were like, I realized that as humans, we are meant to disconnect from our soul. Like, that's part of the journey. Like, we go through traumas and we disconnect, but the cool thing is, as humans, we have the most amazing ability to reconnect again. Like, it's never really, like those parts that we felt were lost or broken, like, we can collect all of our pieces back. We can collect, we collect it. We go through those experiences for the sake of the experience, for our soul's growth. So it's an
Mhm.
illusion that like we're broken. It's really just the experience. So we can play in the brokenness and write about it, because the truth is we're never really broken. Our soul is always meant to reconnect back to us, and we can do that, and we are doing that, and we're doing that as a collective. And today, on in Christ consciousness, like, it's such a beautiful day of remembering our wholeness.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and you're oh,
really
go
love
ahead, Gila. Yeah.
I just want to say I really love that, and I wanted to just respond to the
Mhm.
responsibility. I think that, in order to be really whole, and I think you mentioned it, Selma, and you too as well, Rado, in what we're saying and looking at those dark sides, we're being responsible for ourselves. And just wanted to read a poem that I had written. I'm not sure when I wrote it during our course, but it talks about some of the things that we've shared.
Mm, please.
Feeling,
Yes.
I'll just read it out, and then I'll just I'll let you go. So 1 second. Feeling empty and done, no longer grasping fleeting ideas, slipping away from stories that don't climax, melting into the ground, allowing the truth to devour the illusions, returning to familial love, receiving mature connections, encompassing all parts of my life, reflecting on the love within, responsible, wild, emotional, rational, wise, balanced. A union of my heart, mind, intuition, and soul. Satisfying to be me. Beginning again, reinventing at the starting point. Loving the trusting, innocent, young soul that twisted and turned, peeling each layer slowly, spiraling down and up, until I found the core of love inside me, bubbling up, taking care of my needs, nurturing young souls to help them on their purpose while tending my lane, honing the art of being a conscious being and parent, flourishing at each moment, trusting the unseen and the unspoken, opening my eyes, heart, and throat as I stared in the glory of paradoxes,
Mm.
no longer hiding onto extremes, no longer holding onto extremes, standing and gaping at the precipice of the in-between, witnessing the liminal space of creation where every piece fits imperfectly in the masterpiece of life.
Mm.
Oh
Ooh.
my goodness. Yeah. I love that you called it a paradox too. It's
Mhm.
back to, the yin and yang. It's back to all of that. And the creation. Ah, it's something else. Reinventing something. And it was reinventing yourself is not how you said it. You said it more poetically, of course, but the whole thing, yeah. It was all the contrasts in a very gentle way. Like you've gone through it enough to be healed, enough to communicate it from the healed point, the value of going through it. That's
Mhm.
what I hear.
Mhm.
Yeah. Excellent.
The part,
Yeah.
what was the part about peeling back the layers? It's almost like I could feel like I could see it. Like, how many versions do we go through of
Mm.
ourself? We go through so many versions, and like the young, the child, the teen, and like just we keep having the courage to pull back the layers, peel back the layers, because it does take a tremendous amount of courage to do that, but it's like such a beautiful thing. It's the unveiling of the divine true self, and so, ooh, I felt like when you read it certain times, I don't know, I just went back to like teenage years and like those times that were so hard trying to figure it out and no one to really turn to, and trying to figure it out on my own. And it's like, wow, we all go through so much, and like, wow, holding those spaces, even in that poem, I felt like you held all the spaces, Gila, is what I'm trying to,
Mm-hmm.
like, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like you held, like you, like that higher self of your own, like held all pieces and parts with so much love.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Thank
Yeah,
you.
really great way to say it. And even that you mentioned the teens too. It's like it's I think it belongs maybe, well, to everyone, but particularly for teens to be able to uh, maybe be introduced to poetry this way, because
Mm.
there's like so much there that's, it's not esoteric. It's of this, clarity from being here on the planet, which
Mhm.
is teens are so that, like that's a time where we are actually at our most brilliant brain capacity.
Mhm.
So it's no wonder that, they become demanding because they can really grasp way more than they can even say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I really see it kind of as a tool that way.
That would be so
Um,
wonderful to do a course for teens. I really always wanted to do something for the younger generations because they are the ones, like, whatever happens during that time, it makes or breaks them, in the sense that if they get nurtured properly and nourished, and supported with their gifts, it really can build a strong root of confidence, not in the outside, but like on the inside, and that is so powerful, and it's so needed because so much of the teens nowadays, everything is outside. It's TikTok, it's visual, it's this trend, it's that trend. It's
mhm.
too much. It's too much. I don't even know I can't imagine having all of that in my face as a teen. Like I felt like having the magazines and the media and the commercials, I was overwhelmed and inundated and um,
Mhm.
that's the thing about the hips is like it was during the Kate Moss era and it's like, oh, I'll never be beautiful because I'm not like Kate Moss, And so these ideas, they are seeds of doubt that they grow within us. And so it's so important to nurture and nourish the youth and to let them explore their own inner realm without judgment or telling them how to, but just kind of guiding them. And I think that would be so amazing to do like a self-expression class for teens, like a poetry program for teens that we could do.
Yeah. Well, it would
Yeah,
be very
that sounds
different
amazing.
than the rap, rapping poetry that I mean, they don't call it poetry, they call it rapping that I don't relate to, but yeah, that's a pretty delicate thing to approach. And I was thinking, like I did get to be with teens in a facility and be in a teaching position. So art and, fun things and also reproduction and um, crafts. But, and I did that for 8 years. So it was in a situation with the kids that, to me, they are so brilliant and need art more than anything. And
Yeah.
they don't get that in school necessarily. And they're very talented
Mm-hmm.
artistically.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something to consider. And I'm realizing, Gila, you're like fresh out of like your teens, or you're like your youngest is out of teens now.
No, no, no. My youngest is still in teens. Yeah, I have
Okay.
two children, still
Mhm.
teenagers, and I have one that just turned 20. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
I'm living through the teenage years with them.
No
I've shared
wonder. Yeah.
poetry when they were younger. So I think they feel like they can have an outlet. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I have actually also worked with someone who was, I think she was approaching teenage years. And it was great to just, like you said, like just allow whatever came through to her without judgment, without even, just allowing everything, magic, her imagination, um, challenging and difficult conversations and episodes. I think it's really, really important to just hear everything and not be like a parental adult, that's has any kind of connection. Because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
also the challenging thing as a parent.
It is. Yeah, exactly. The challenging thing. My kids are grown. I mean, my kids are 50 and 45. They're pretty dang grown. And it's I don't have grandchildren, and I think that has me connected to them still as my kids, you know. Um, and there is, absolutely the letting go part. I mean, that can't not happen. They take off. They have their own lives. It just like we all do. And yet the mom expression there is really, I think, missed. And the reason I brought that up though is because, your poem came directly from the timing of you being with them as teens. And really, I'm going to say barely out, like, because yes, you have an adult that, I mean, approaching adulthood at 20, legally at 21. Um, and to me, they're babies all through their 20 years. And I've met brilliant, brilliant adults that are that age as well. But often, especially in this culture, there are just as many teens in that age group that I'm going to say they're still teenagers. Some of us, I guess, remain teenagers in a certain way that's uh, beneficial and fun as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I think it's really cool to tap into different voices in our poetry. Like the voice of our inner child will be different than the voice of our inner teen, because they're all parts of self. And so like the poem about like the hips, like that's really like the teen kind of angst, like, hey, I'm not welcome in this world, because I'm not like that. But so each part has like a different part, and then the wise woman inside me is different, like there's so many archetypes. That's why I love the archetypes, because the archetypes include all parts of ourself, and it's really actually healing to go back into certain parts and write from those
Mhm.
parts. And so that's why I want to say, like, with poetry, we can't be judgmental because we are speaking from different parts of ourself. So like if there's like if there's some angst in some poetry, or there's joy, or the teenage desire, or whatever it is, like it's all part of the parts of self that makes us whole. And so what I'm trying to say is, like, if somebody writes like a book with all the different parts, like that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, well, that's just defining them. That's just defines them. That seals the deal, because we're always growing and we're always
Mhm.
changing. And it's like, you can't put a poet in a box. Don't even try. Like that's just a part of their self or part of their experience. So I want to give other poets permission to, like, not be afraid that like their poem would stigmatize them, is what I'm trying to really say here.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, excellent. I love the access to all parts of ourselves, and that we are, yeah, as teens, we're, sh- I mean, it's sort of like, I actually was a mom in those early 20s that I said, maybe we weren't adults, or I see us not being adults. I know the parts of myself that wasn't. I was looking forward to being a mom, loving being a mom. And um, yeah, it was joyous. And there were lots of things I missed. And I think that happens in motherhood anyway. But I appreciate that you're bringing up all those parts of us, and that we get to, that's our, it's kind of like our canvas, like those are the places that we get to go and re-experience the connection that was made to any experience that we had, that stays with us, whether it was a great contribution or whether it was our least favorite or our worst.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and from where we are right now, it is just like picking up a paintbrush and picking a color. We can
Mm-hmm.
just let the one that didn't serve us just sit there. It doesn't, it's
Mm-hmm.
not anything anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
not relevant to what we're painting now, to what
Mm-hmm.
we're expressing now. And sometimes it is. It was a part of it. Doesn't mean it needs to be in the poem.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it just seems like we have kind of like an endless conversation about this. So we totally love poetry, obviously, and I know it is Christmas Day, and we're going to be moving on to our next thing.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. Well, we're just so grateful to come together in this way. Love you ladies so much, honor you deeply, and thank you for enriching my life. And we thank you all for tuning in with us today. We wish you the most beautiful day, and however it's going for you, we're just sending our love, and hopefully you'll be inspired to write a poem.
yes,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you, everyone.
Until next time, bye for now.